Hey guys, today's vlog will be about a topic called mental health in college. Okay, for those of you out there, um, whether you're a young adult or a teen or whatever, I think this video is good if you are currently in college or if you're not in college but you're struggling with similar things. Okay, let's talk about mental health. Now, firstly, I think based on my experience, which hasn't been very broad, obviously, because I'm not like a therapist or whatever, but um, I think whenever they say, oh, there needs to be more mental health awareness in schools, in people, blah blah blah. I don't think that it necessarily means that they have to know about the disease only, but I think that what's lacking in society in general is the effects of the illnesses and the acceptance of it. Not that you have to take anything that people give you, no, it's more of the awareness of what it means. Because I believe that ignorance breeds, sometimes it could breed contempt, and ignorance is just, a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge, or perhaps a unwillingness to know about certain things, which never helps in any situation. And I'm not saying this to be like whatever, but it's entirely your choice. But honestly, I feel like it's also important to know about the effects. So let's talk mental health. I think it's very easy to feel silenced. That's number one, when you are struggling and you yourself are in a very vulnerable, compromised position. It's very easy to feel like you can't speak. Or if you do speak, you can only speak to like a designated person. And honestly speaking, I think I can understand where the depression of some people come from, the loneliness you feel, why some people end up taking their own lives. Because honestly, I think it's not there. The understanding is not, um, in some places, it's not great. And the people's understanding sometimes is really not great. And people can often misunderstand you, and and even that means that you have to be more careful with how you're saying things, and careful in a way that really isn't helpful. It's more of a suppression than anything else. Because if you want to, I don't know about you, but if you want to heal mentally also, I think it's a combination of managing but also trying to hope that people understand. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the thing about struggles as a young adult. I think it's honestly painful, it's beautiful, but it's really hard and it's really lonely. Like, the biggest catchphrase is saying, I'm okay. I'm okay. Because sometimes you have to do it. You have to do it because you're at work, you're in school, you're in a situation that calls for you to be professional, and that means professional, and that means sometimes obviously not actually showing what you're showing, which is, I guess, most people in the world do it, because it's required. Obviously, some people do it, but if it's for long term, I don't know about you, but for people with mental health issues, I think sometimes people we're often in a very vulnerable and compromised position. And here's the thing that I've noticed. I don't know if it's just me. It's just an observation. I'm from an Asian family, obviously, but I'm from an Asian family. But a lot of times the things that people say to you, I think people have it in their hearts to help you, I guess. But a lot of times it's very IQ related advice. So it's like, oh, like you just have to focus and like, do your thing. And even I was raised thinking like that, like, oh, you have no problems, what's your deal? You have no issues. Everything's great. And you're like, oh yeah, everything's great. It's not great, but because you're brought up thinking that, you're just like, this is all okay. All this is fine. I'm okay. Ha! And then people ask you if you're okay. You don't say, no, I'm not okay. You're like, I'm fine. Because I think that's what people want to hear. And so unconsciously you want to please them, because obviously you're not fine, but because you want to please them, and you know that they might not fully understand when you say you're not fine based on tough previous experience, you're just, instead all you say is, I'm fine. I'm fine. And they'd be like, wow, you're so happy. And you're like, you know, because there's that professional you, isn't it? There's that wanna please people you, and the you that's actually truly internally damaged and hurt, but still human. Human is the word. So I think there's that. For me, I don't know about you guys, but for me, oh my god, like it's like there's two people, not like split personality or what, but it's just like there's just two yous. You know you're you, but you sometimes don't know which one is the real you anymore. Because you know there's that you that always has to function in society because you're always out there. You're being put in a position where you have to be in society, whether if it's for you guys, if it's school, work, you know, a certain occupation that needs you to be with people, and you know you obviously have to function in a different way. You know, yes, some people who are, you know, okay, they can just be themselves, you know, be yourself and be like all chill and all like, hey, I'm being myself, it's so easy, or it's like it's cool. But for some people it's so hard to be yourself because it's fucking scary. You know, some people are like, you know, what's the big deal? Just be yourself. You know, just be yourself. Be honest. But honestly, for some people, it's not a good idea, and it's not great. It's not easy to be yourself. In fact, if you don't be yourself, that's probably when it helps you. For some people, and yeah, and in the process, sometimes when you're yourself, you know, you can offend some people because of how blunt you are, because of how you make mistakes, and oh my god, and then that's where you realize I cannot be myself in that way. You know, be yourself but not this way, be yourself but not that way, not that way. So you're just like, I think I took this easier way out, which was to just be whatever they wanted or whoever wanted me to be. Which is weird because I think I grew up always never knowing who I could really be, because you know whatever I was is always being criticized no matter what. Like no matter what you do, there's always somebody that is not happy with what you do. And people are like, oh, just get over it. But it's not that easy, seriously, because a lot of times we live in a life where we live in service of other people. So many times we live in some form or another in service, in relation to others, and sometimes we don't want to fuck up that relationship. Sometimes we do, but when it happens we're like, oh shit, and then we try to be another person or do something else that doesn't offend the people. You know what I mean? So there's that. And talking about advice, sometimes it comes from a good place, but it's very IQ, right? Like I said, IQ. And for some people it helps. It works wonders because, you know, obviously it's true, I guess, IQ. But a lot of times I think, at least from my own experience, there is such a lack of EQ related stuff. What do I mean? For example, nobody asks like I from my experience personally, like I've had so many people asking me if I was genuinely okay and what happened, and are things that are happening okay. And so many times you live in a place and in an environment where you're so stifled, and I don't know how to explain it, but have you like ever been in a place where you're so stifled and you feel as though everybody knows what's wrong with you, and they ask you if you're okay, but it seems like they know you're not okay, but they just keep asking if you're okay, but nothing is done. Like that, like I don't know why, but it rubs me off the wrong way, because when people ask you, are you okay, even though everybody knows you're not okay, but they keep asking and nothing changes, it becomes very hypocritical to me. And you know, it's just, you feel so isolated, you feel so lonely, especially when you're struggling with a mental health issue. And trust me, that's the time where some people just leave you out. They don't care, they just like, okay, I don't know what's wrong, I'm gonna fuck off. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I need to drink some water, hydrate yourself. And so I think that's why having another life, having an occupation is, or having school is not easy for some people. And it's not about just changing the job. It's sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not about changing the job, but just realizing that in life you are always going to be exposed to people, and sometimes it's absolutely terrifying. It's scary, but you want a chance, and you get hurt along the way because you're always in relation with people, and people can be really unpredictable. They can be. You can be very unpredictable, especially with people, right? So it's kind of like some it's like a cyclical condition, a cyclical situation where you need that social interaction. You know you need to be with people, but I say that you sometimes can get really unstable with people because you never know what they want. So it's like what do you do, right? And even if it changes, nothing changes. Even if the situation changes, nothing changes because it's always with people. No matter where you live, no matter where you go, somehow or another, it's gonna be related to people. And I think there were some times where I wanted to speak out, but I think I sort of finally understood what it meant when there's almost nothing when you speak up. It's like I felt like I was always wrong. Always. It's just me. And no matter what you said, no matter what you did, you were always wrong. And I think that did bothered me for quite a while, and I started to just say I was fine. Because I think that's what people want to hear. I think. Because you know why? Because after that, things became better. I just became that excellent, that very, very hardworking, smiling girl. And I think that's when some people learn how to put on a mask. Because people want to see you, I think, happy. But people don't want to see you in your entirety. And of course, you sacrifice your true emotions along the way. Like, I go for therapy, yes, but it's not always an easy road. There are days, it's not like a magic pill where you swallow and you're brilliantly okay. Yes, it may feel that way at first, but even therapy has its ups and downs. It's a journey, and it has bumps, and sometimes it's like you feel like there's no point. I feel like sometimes that there's no point. I get frustrated as well. Yeah, and I feel like just quitting everything. The isolation, I think the biggest problem right now with people with mental health issues is the isolation they feel or they get. It's either an emotional isolation of how they feel personally, or a physical isolation where they feel so out of place with the people that they are in currently, the situation, the environment, etc., etc. Or people just don't want to be with you, but they tolerate it because they have to be polite, or it's for work, and nobody wants to see the actual real you, because the real you is hurt. The real you is made up of past traumas, of broken injuries, and you're a victim too, and I think a lot of times people who don't recover from that, they grow to have a lot of injuries that they don't know how to address, and that creates many, many issues in life. And yeah, so yeah, and I'm at a low point right now, if I can confess, because I think there are some times where I think I'm fine, but I know deep down that I'm not fine. And people are people, I think, sometimes when you're stuck in the situation, you think that the situation is your whole world, because it is, right? Because you're there so much of the time. And that's why for people in certain schools, or certain workplaces, if they can't take it and they feel like they're trapped in that situation of people, etc., I can't do it, or etc., school grades, etc., or like being around humans that hurt you, you feel like that's it, that's your life, and you want to kill yourself because it's very sad. And I'm not saying that I judge them at all, because why? I totally understand them. Like, totally. People always like to say, oh, speak up, learn to speak up. But honestly, speaking up is not easy, number one. And number two, speaking up sometimes doesn't get any results that you really want. Sometimes speaking out could mean that it's your fault. And you don't know if it's truly your fault or not. You know what I mean? Because you're in a vulnerable spot and you can't handle all these arguments, all these fights, all these, is it you, is it not you, is it, oh, what do? Don't just ignore. And eventually you just keep quiet. I think a lot of people give up instead of fighting and punching and trying to stand up. Eventually you're so sick of it that you just, not that you accept it, you give up. Acceptance has peace, but giving up has, I don't think giving up has peace inside it. You are despondent, you are resigned, and worst of all, you are isolated because of your silence. Outside people may be very happy with you because you no longer act out, you know, like that's what they say. They don't have to know you. They don't even have to understand you because you're fine. You're fine, and you're doing what you're expected to do. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people feel like they can't turn to anyone. People always say you can turn to someone, but how easy is that is another question. How viable is that? How successful is that? Is another question entirely. And isolation is not fun. Isolation is extremely painful. Isolation is horrendous on the brain, on the mind, on your heart. Um, and the irony is that people who are mentally ill, because they're so afraid of being hurt, they often isolate themselves too. Because they've tried to join in and they were ostracized, or they tried to do something and they were ignored. Like, it's not straightforward, you know. People who give advice always think it's just like, just do this, just do that, or just don't do this, and just don't say that, just don't act like that, and then you'll be perfectly fine. It's always this like one off, like, you know, just don't, like, what, and it's gonna be mad, it's all gonna be okay. Or, you know, shut up and you won't have to have so much troubles anymore. And sometimes that works, and because people think that it works, they keep doing it, and they know that they're lying, but nothing can be done about it. So I want to say right now that yes, I'm also struggling, and yes, I'm aware that there's people here who are probably struggling too, in one way or the other. And therapy is not easy. Okay, it's not easy, and I'm not happy sometimes. And yes, sometimes I feel like I have to always say that I'm okay. Even though you say, people will be like, oh, you don't have to say that you're okay. People want to be PC and say like, oh, you don't have to be pretend in front of us. Trust me, people always like to say one thing, but they actually want another thing. When they actually receive what it's like to be around someone who's not okay, they don't actually enjoy it. So you please be careful when you say you don't have to be this or you don't have to be that. Because trust me, like, you have to ask yourself, are you really able to accept it if someone says they're really, really not okay so many times? Right? Yes, people can want to hear your stories, your stop stories once, twice, but do you really like to be around people who's always saying that? Can you take it? For me personally, I can, because I'm part of it, you know. But people who don't have that kind of issues, you know, some people, they don't like it. So you need to know, are you really able to take it before you even say that they can be themselves around you? Yeah. And yes, sometimes I feel like things are always my fault. Like, literally always my fault. And trust me, it's a product of growing up thinking that way. And there's, even in mathematics, I think there's even a probability that not it can't be possible that every single thing is your fault. But you think that it is, because it's easier to think that it is your fault. Because people make you think that it's your fault. People make you feel like it's your fault. You make yourself feel like it's your fault. And that's just how it is. So that's honestly just all I wanted to say. It sucks. Okay? Yes, it sucks. And I'm not here to say that, oh, I have some kind of magic solution for you, because I don't. I'm frustrated. I'm very heartbroken. I'm sad that there's such an ignorance. I'm desolate. I am very, very lonely. I'm very isolated. And I just wanted you to know that, you know, you're not alone if you feel this way too. Because it's not an easy thing. Like, you're struggling, and I can see that. So it's not easy. And when I say it's not easy to be alive. It's not. It's very scary. And it can be really hard. And it's not all roses, it's not all daisies. It's not fun sometimes. People. And I'm just saying, yeah, don't judge people who take their own lives, because I can tell you, there must have been so much pain, so much loneliness, and so much trying and failing that the person just felt like they couldn't do it anymore. And there must have been so much of a lack of understanding that they might have felt for them to want to do this. And I hate the people who blame those people for taking their own lives, because you have no idea what it really feels like. it is a pain that leaves you feeling like you are utterly alone. And it's a pain that makes you feel as though you have to be smiling so that you don't appear weird, so that you're socially acceptable. Yeah. I'm not here to making a video on, I'm not trying to make a solution. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I have some great solution for you. That's not it. This is just a really real and honest talk, because so often I feel like I don't have a fucking voice, to be very honest with you. I feel like I can't fucking speak anywhere. I can't fucking say anything that I want to say. And yes, we should be responsible for what we say. Yes, we should censor ourselves sometimes. But sometimes as well, there's not enough being said about mental health struggles and what it actually is in reality, not on those pamphlets or like some website that describes the scene. It feels like shit. It feels like dog shit. It feels like you're rolling in dog shit and you don't know how to get out of it. It feels like you're down a well and people are all outside and being like, oh, we understand, or you need a break, you need to come back better, blah 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 blah. But no one actually wants to help you down that well, because why? They can't, or they won't, or they say you need to go for therapy, and they think therapy is like oh, that's it. It's so easy for the sufferer to go for therapy, or it must be a good thing that they want to go for. No, it's not easy to go for therapy either. Okay, gosh. Okay, mental health illness is not the same thing as a physical illness where you can just literally just go to the doctor and be like, hey, treat me. No, there's fear of people, there's fear of rejection, there's fear of failure, there's fear of everything that goes along with it as well. Okay, and don't blame the people for being like, oh, it's your fault. You didn't seek help earlier. It's you. It's not me. It's you. Like, stop. Okay, and it's not easy and it's not straightforward. Okay, and sometimes, for God's sake, because I faced this so many times, and I'm just putting it out there. Sometimes, yes, you may want to give like solutions or advice from the IQ perspective, but some people just don't need that kind of advice. They need EQ. They need someone to empathize and be with them and literally just say, I know you're not okay, but I'm sincerely there for you. Like, and I mean that I'm there for you. Not like a fake, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? But nobody does anything. Just, are you okay? Like sometimes people literally just need someone to be there by their side. And it doesn't always have to be a therapist, for God's sake. As human beings, like, how many therapists are there actually? Not every therapist is a great suit for the person. And you as a human being, we as a human being, I think we can do more than just being like, oh, I'm not professional, I'm not trained in empathizing with people, so goodbye. Like, that's not it. It's just learning to know how to empathize. Jeez. So yeah, that's it. And that's all I want to say. I don't have some magic advice, so this is just a really real take of how fucking shit it can be, and I'm not okay. There, I'm putting it out there. I'm not always okay. Sometimes, yes, I'm okay. Some days I'm really, really okay. But a lot of times I'm very angry at how there's a lack of understanding and a sort of preconceived notion about me sometimes. I'm very upset about that. And people think, oh, it's your fault, you decided it. It's like, no, it's not. Sometimes it's really just not your fault, because you can't control it. And I'm also really upset at how ignorant sometimes people can get about exactly what entails this condition. I'm very upset at the isolation. I'm very upset at myself too. And honestly, it's that. And I don't know about you, some people are really about the work, which is great. So am I, because I can confess that I'm a huge workaholic sometimes, which is not a great thing, by the way. Sometimes I can just work for like fucking the whole fucking week without break, because I'm sometimes obsessed in that way. But I think it's really just not easy, and it's not nice to say. And yes, it's not perfectly clear. Sometimes it's just about saying that you understand and you truly get it. It's not about sometimes just the work put in, for God's sake. Because the work can be there, but a person's life, once it's gone, it's gone. You can reproduce a work for however how many goddamn times you fucking want. I mean, look at Shakespeare, for God's sake. 500 years and he's still, his works are still there. But a person, when they're gone, they're gone. If you didn't understand them, they're still gone. You can't do anything to get that same person back. You can't clone a person and have them back exactly the same. So yes, work is important, results are important, but it's so not easy. What can we do as a society to help people like us? What can I do to help people like us? I don't know. But I can say that struggles are real. Isolation is very real. And people might deny it, people might ignore it, people might say, no, it's not you, it's all in your head, it's your perception, blah, 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 blah. But what you feel is also very valid. You know, isolation is real. Okay, what you feel is real. So don't invalidate how you feel. And yes, people can tell you to be whatever, like, oh, you know, you should join in, you know, you should be more active, you should be like more like blah 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 blah, and like not care about what's going on. But don't ignore what you really feel. And dying is not easy, but I can tell you that this world can pressure can be really big. And yeah, please don't judge these people, please don't judge us. It's really hard. It's so hard to satisfy yourself and to satisfy the world. It's fucking scary. And I just want to say that I will never be that kind of person that says that your work or thinks that your work is more important than your life, or spew IQ stuff and think that the IQ stuff is more important than the EQ stuff or whatever, because it sucks. For God's sake, it sucks. Okay, so that's really all I wanted to say. Well, if anything, I will be sharing this video, so see how it goes. Yeah, gosh. Anyways, that's it for my talk of some sort. As you can see, I've got many books because I love books. I still have like 2 more shelves the other side. So there's that. And I'm not very happy sometimes, okay, so I'm not gonna be like that, but yeah. The other thing that I struggle with sometimes, I don't know if some of you have it, is how you express yourself. Like, honestly, I view myself as a good person. I am, and I know that I am, but there are a lot of times where I cannot express myself well in front of other people, and trust me, it goes off the wrong way. And you know, but I'm always sincerely trying to help. But you know, because you know, sometimes it's just scary. It's fucking scary to be around humans sometimes, especially when you're in a vulnerable state. So you get misunderstood so often, and it frustrates you because that's not who you are. But people are like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I saw you doing that, so well, you know, that's who you are, babe. Like, but I mean, yes. So sometimes please be aware that I may not always express myself perfectly, and some people may not always express themselves perfectly. And but I'm a good person, but I just sometimes really just don't know how. And I'm pretty sure some people can understand this. So yeah. Oh right, like fun fact. I think I'm a Gryffindor. I don't know why. I have actually never read Harry Potter, so it might be inaccurate because I didn't really read Harry Potter yet fully, and I just anyhow took the Pottermore quiz thing, and I just didn't even know what the fuck it meant. But I just anyhow selected. But I'm supposedly a Gryffindor, so I think I can see it. I used to be so pissed off because I was like, no, I want to be Hufflepuff. I want to be like blah blah blah. But and I also Gryffindor, and I think the reason why is because I desperately always want to do something about things, and I don't want to just be a bystander. I never want to be someone that just looked on. and know that something shitty is coming, but I don't do anything about it. I used to be such a vocal person. Like, I would always speak, sometimes in the wrong way. I would admit. Sometimes I spoke in the wrong way, and it got me into big trouble and big shit. But I always wanted to speak up for some reason. And I think that's why I'm a Gryffindor. And I really value that. And I think people like that are game changers, and they're really admirable. And even if you're not, it's fine. So, yeah. Or not, it's fine.